All right. Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to the 12th annual MSC Helps Luncheon. I only get you for an hour, so we have to start on time. All right, friends. For those of you who don't know me, I am Ted Colby. I'm excited to be able to help out again this year. By day, I'm your local State Farm insurance nerd. Evenings and weekends, I'm a youth minister at a local parish here. I'm always a father, a husband, and since I was born, I'm a Seattle Mariners fan. All right, we got a few of those. So before we start, I do have to offer a personal apology. Yesterday, I had one of those days, it was like appointments from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. I had to dress like an adult all day, and I thought it'll be fine. When I got home at night, I found out it was not fine because that score was not fine. So even though I had to dress like an adult today, I want you to know I am wearing my Mariners gear. You can thank me when we're up 3-1 at the end of the night, okay? All right, friends, we've got all of you gathered here in Federal Way. We also have a lot of people joining us online. Thank you for being here. And so we do want to take a moment to recognize, since we're gathered throughout South King County, we want to acknowledge that collectively we are gathered on the ancestral territory of the Muckleshoot, Puyallup, Duwamish, and Coastal Salish tribes. We'll take a moment of silence to pay respect to their elders, both past and present, as well as living descendants and future generations. Thank you for that. MSD encourages all of us to learn more about what we can do to give back and to center Indigenous people, spaces, and environments of our area. Now, guys, we said this is the 12th annual, and sometimes when you do things a lot, you start taking things for granted, and I don't want to do that. What we're doing here is not what's happening everywhere, folks. We're doing something amazing here, and so we want to take a minute to thank the folks that are making that possible. First off, our presenting sponsor, we've got Blue Ridge Cascade. Now, some of you might not be familiar with that name, but that's because we've been working with them for a long time as Shelter Resources, Inc., and that's MSC's main partner in building affordable housing. Yeah, let's give it up for our sponsor. Our number one partner for building affordable housing throughout South King and North Pierce counties. We really thank you for your continued presence helping achieve the mission to uplift communities by increasing equitable access to advocacy, opportunities, and well-being. We also have several other businesses that make this a successful event. And so our signature sponsors, I want to give them a shout out. First of all, the City of Federal Way, LB Gibson Family Foundation, and Microsoft. So thank you to our signature sponsors. All right, we have a lot more sponsors. I'm going to run through some of our lead sponsors, but I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to pause for the applause this time, so we're going to go through. Thank goodness we've got so many that we got to rush through them all. So, all right, so holding our applause to the end, our lead sponsors, Coldwell Banker Danforth, Columbia Bank, First Financial Northwest, operated by Global Credit Union, Gisa Credit Union, Greenie Scudder Law Firm, King County Council Member Pete Von Reitbauer, Loveridge Hunt and Company, Sprague Israel Giles, a division of World, South King Media, and Valley Harvest International Market. And I'm still not done. We've got associate sponsors, Allied Residential, Banner Bank, Federal Way Public Schools, Nicole Hill, Kelly Create, King County Housing Authority, Kiwanis Club of Federal Way, sponsored by Bev and Bob Dockstader, Puget Sound Energy, and Washington Trust Bank. All right, let's give it up for all those people that make this a successful day. I'm not going to lie, there's even more sponsors. We just can't do it all in an hour. So take a look at your program, guys, and pay attention to those folks that are showing up and supporting our community. It matters that they're doing that. All right, of course, now I want to thank all of you for being here. You folks are going to make a huge impact today. Let's maybe give a round of applause for those table captains who invited and or dragged us, made sure we made it here one way or another. Table captains, give a wave. Thank you for your work. And we want to give a big shout out to those people who supported us as pace setters. Now, the pace setters are the ones who gave a donation before the event, right? They didn't taste the food or listen to the keynote first. They said, I am in, and donated $250 or more to convince us, who didn't do that yet, to give our absolute best gift when we're asked a little bit later in the program. Pace setters, will you give a wave or a stand up so we can acknowledge you? Thank you so much. All right, and of course, we need our public officials that support us in our mission here. So if you would please stand or wave if you're the public official or representative that was able to join us today. Please, King County Councilmember Pete Von Reitbauer, Federal Way Mayor Jim Farrell, Federal Way Council members Lydia Acefa Dawson, Jack Dovey, Susan Honda, Linda Kochmar, Paul McDaniel, and Jack Walsh, our Federal Way Police Chief Andy Wong, and Federal Way Public Schools Superintendent Danny Pfeiffer. Did I miss any other elected officials joining us today? Shout it out for me, I'm deaf. From the school board. All right, I missed it. I'm sorry, I can't hear that. For all of those people though, thank you so much for supporting and helping us achieve the goals. Multi-Service Center. All right, as we know, we all need some direction. So how about the board of directors, those people donating time, energy, treasure, the board of directors, Multi-Service Center, stand up or give a wave, please, so we can thank you for all you're doing. Again, we might take it for granted, you guys, but we're so fortunate to have an organization like the Multi-Service Center working to help so many people who need some support reaching their goals. And everybody who works for this organization, they're taking the investment that we put in and turning it into change in our community. So it is now my pleasure to invite the leader of this team, CEO Kirsten York, to the stage.
Hello. Thank you for being here today. It's nice to see this room full of smiling faces. It's important that you're here today to celebrate our impact in community of our programs, but also look towards the future so we can continue to deliver vital services in the community. So this work takes an incredible team. I would like to have any of the MSC staff that are here today to stand up or wave so we can say thank you and appreciate you. So MSC staff. MSC is a nonprofit community action agency that provides equitable access to resources and support while addressing systemic and societal barriers for folks experiencing poverty. To do this, we center community needs and deliver services that are aimed at helping people reach their goals. Our programs include housing support like rental assistance, supportive housing, permanent affordable housing. We assist unhoused individuals with access to housing and family shelter. Our teams also help people exit poverty or avoid homelessness by providing funds for alternatives like bus tickets and other essentials. To remove barriers and increase a sense of belonging for our community members, we provide resource navigation and programming specifically for our immigrant and refugee communities. MSC offers employment and education and operates the Washington State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. It's a mouthful. We affectionately call them our LitCop team, providing support for resources and residents in long-term care facilities. But our largest program is our Energy Assistance Program, which includes federally funded LIHEAP and MSC Help programs. Through both of these, we were able to provide over $30 million in energy assistance benefits to South King County households annually. The majority of these funds come from our partner PSE, Puget Sound Energy, who is also a sponsor of the event. So thank you so much. And finally, our food bank serves around 1,500 households weekly through our on-site food bank, home delivery programs, mobile food banks at senior living facilities. You have probably heard that we recently moved our food bank operations to our new location at our affordable housing property, Redondo Heights. This new food bank is just 4 miles down the road from our original location and provides our clients with significantly improved market food bank model. And we moved to an appointment-based system so clients can come in, their needs are centered, and they have experience accessing healthy and culturally relevant food. So you'll hear a little bit more about our food bank later when we ask you to support our work with a gift. So this last year, we've had a tremendous increase in the number of people served, jumping from 77,000 individuals to over 111,000 people receiving assistance through MSC. This large jump in the number of people served is mainly due to our great partners like PSE, who share our goal of removing barriers so people can access the help that they need. While we are serving more people and seeing more need, our traditional government funding sources are reducing and shifting. We need your support to continue our work, and not only your financial support, but your voice and advocacy with leaders who are making decisions about what is most important to our community. The ongoing federal government shutdown compounds this issue. MSC remains open during the shutdown and will continue to offer services. However, if it persists, some of our programming may be impacted. The potential need to adjust services in the future may occur. We receive a significant amount of support from our government funding sources. The majority of funding is provided on a reimbursement model when we provide the service and then we request payment for services. So the federal government shutdown also affects our partners in community, our state and city funding partners, as we receive pass-through funding from them. And if funding streams stop at the federal level, it means local partners may not have the funds to pass on to organizations providing services. MSC is strategic and has contingency plans in place for situations like this, our rainy day, where we need to cover short periods of time through our reserves or line of credit. However, this is not a model that we can sustain long-term. As a nonprofit, our function is to disseminate funds into community and serve our neighbors. The support we provide individuals and families is critical. It's long been supported regardless of political party alignment because community action prioritizes community needs and has innovatively shown up in whatever way our neighbors need for more than 60 years. MSC is proud of our ability to maintain a high level of success in our metrics, funding, and audits. All the bankers in the room will appreciate that. And we'll be looking for leverage and support from local community to advocate for continued funding. We are thankful for your past support, which has been a source of inspiration for us in our work and a much needed constant in these ever-changing times. Your dollars given today provide much more than food, heat, housing, and services to our neighbors. It provides assurance that our community members have equitable access to advocacy opportunities and well-being. We continue to do so by centering our equity work we do inside and outside of our organization. I look forward to continuing to ensure that we have positive impact on those in our community, and we do so with care and compassion. And with your partnership, the future of MSC is full of hope and joy and prosperity. Thank you. I'd like to welcome back our amazing MC, Ted.
All right, thank you again, Kristen, for all the work you're doing. All right, friends, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, Dr. Tiffany Manuel, or Dr. T, as she prefers to be called. Dr. T is a dynamic speaker, best-selling author, and the president and CEO of The Case Made, an organization dedicated to helping leaders powerfully and intentionally make the case for systems change. Dr. T works with hundreds of change makers throughout the country, innovators and adaptive leaders who are building together better, stronger communities that are diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Please join me in welcoming Dr. T.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, y'all can go a little bit better. Y'all can do better than that. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, there we go. Now we're off to a good start. Well, I'm excited to be here. I have to say, first of all, just thank you to the MSC staff and partners and board and many of the sponsors for this event. I love being in a room full of what I call courageous leaders and good troublemakers. And you don't come to an event like this unless you really are a courageous leader and a darn good troublemaker. And I want to also thank the sponsors because I told them I live in Orlando, Florida. And I live there because I like the sun. I need to see, I'm one of those people who are seasonally affected by the weather. So I said, I know I'm coming all the way out to Seattle, but you need to guarantee me some sunshine. And you know what? They delivered. Promises delivered, so I'm good, y'all. Listen, I'm excited to be here. As the introduction said, I operate an organization called The Case Made. We've been in business for about 6 years, and we help organizations across the country to make a stronger case for the work that they're trying to do. I know that it's probably no secret to anybody in this room that the work that we do, especially in community building and community work, is really tough, and it's getting tougher. And so the ability to have some really strategic thinking about how we position our work for success so that we get more champions in the room, like rooms like this, but also just the rooms of policymakers and other organizations and residents and a whole range of folks who say, this is valuable and I want to see it thrive. What can I do to help? Is exactly what lots of organizations need. So I am here with you all today to help to ground that notion in the work that is happening here. And I want to say that in the work that I do, you can't do this work without being a good storyteller. That's a lot of what case making is about. The book that I just wrote, and I'm going to have some of them available for those of you who want it, called Fast Track, available today, tells lots of stories with lots of great lessons for how you do case making. And I'm going to share just a few of those stories today with you all, just as a way of grounding the conversation about how we make the case for change. So I gotta tell you that the Fast Track book, first of all, is it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's on the cover of the book is a compass, which is an interesting thing, right? Most people don't know how to operate a compass. You need to. And the reason there's a compass on the front of it is because when for those of you who've ever, how many of you are hikers or been out like real hikers? Oh boy, this might be a long lunch. But you need a compass when there is a lot of disruption around you and you can't tell which way is north, right? You don't know which direction you're in when there may be storms or there's just haze or whatever it is and you've kind of gotten lost. A compass always helps you find due north, so you know exactly what direction you're going. I submit to you today that there's a lot of disruption going on. Oh boy, literally. It's a little rough. I mean, literally, like every hour on the hour, I get one of these alerts on my from news about what is the latest set of executive order that's happened that's going to disrupt the community building we're trying to do. Like ding, 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 ding. Okay, here we go again. In a moment where there's so much disruption, right? Being able to consistently see your due north is super important. And so I wrote the book as a way of saying, we need to always be able to find our way forward, no matter what that is, no matter what our politics are, no matter what our religion is, no matter what our race or ethnicity, it doesn't matter. For whatever it is, your North Star, you got to be able to find that even when your sight line, right, doesn't give you clarity. The second thing is in the middle of that compass is a forest of all kinds of amazing trees and the ecosystem that is thriving right in the center, right in the palm of your hand, if you have a compass in your hand. And the reason I wanted to put that in there is because I want us to always be able to remember, even in the midst of storms and disruption, that our goal is thriving, healthy, healed, inclusive communities. How about that? Yeah. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about Fast Track. For the work that I do, I am literally on planes, trains, and automobiles almost every day of the week, about 6 or 7 planes sort of back to back in different rooms like this. Sometimes it's working strategically with different organizations that are trying to figure out creatively what to do strategically about some of the work they have to get done in their organization. Sometimes it's about just engaging folks and inspiring people to do bigger, better things than they would have done without a conversation with some of their community members. And so I got to tell you, when you travel a lot, like if you got 20 planes back to back, they're pretty good. And by the time you get to that 21st flight, all hell breaks loose. It is almost the law of averages. And so I have so many horror stories, loving stories, but also horror stories. For example, recently I was on a flight to Jersey, and I don't know if you remember this in the news. I was on a flight from Orlando to Jersey, and our plane and all the planes in the airspace of Newark lost connection to air traffic control. And so we were flying around while they tried to figure out how to get us reconnected. after kind of flying around and they couldn't sort of get us back on the New Jersey air traffic control, and so many of the flights that were also circling around had to get picked up by other air traffic control in other cities. We got picked up by the Baltimore air traffic controllers, who told us to get redirected to Baltimore. When we got to Baltimore, they had no place to put the plane because we weren't supposed to be in Baltimore. And so our plane and about 30 other planes without a gate to land and park in had to park in the grass outside of BWI. And we sat there for about 3 hours because they didn't know what to do with us because there were so many planes. And so I literally have so many wonderful stories I could share with you about that. But I'm going to share one in particular that I hope will not only just be an interesting story to tell about travel, but will also provide some guidance and direction about both the moment we're in and also about the work that we have to do as courageous leaders and good troublemakers. This is a story from many years. Actually, the story itself is a reflection I had just a couple of weeks ago, but it refers to something that happened many years ago. So a couple of weeks ago, I was coming out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, with a room full of leaders from across the state, very much like this room, probably a few more, probably about 600 or 700 folks. And I had done the conversation. We had a whole day workshop. I went back to the airport, hopped on a plane, got on a plane. Whole day, I'm exhausted. Put on my headphones. I got my jazz going. I close my eyes. I'm exhausted. And we get in the air, and it's quite a bit of choppy weather. And so I'm in my zone, and I'm kind of rocked out of my kind of zone because there's some issues happening on the plane, and I realize there are some kids in front of me that have become afraid because the plane, there's a lot of turbulence. The plane it's one of these small regional planes. Y'all know what I'm talking about, where the wind is kind of like doing its thing. And I kind of woke up out of my kind of not slumber, but at least out of my sort of peace for the moment, because I realized that the kids were just afraid. Like, Mom, what's going to happen? Are we going to crash? And they were going through all this thing because it was a pretty turbulent flight. And I had an epiphany. And the epiphany that I had was I was so grateful. Just a moment of sincere gratitude in the midst of this plane that's doing this thing. Because about 10 years ago, I had a very different experience where I had walked off a plane that had made an emergency landing. And I walked off of that plane shaking for about 2 hours and determined that I would never, ever get on a flight again in my entire life. And I will recount what happened. I was on a plane. There were storms all over the East Coast. I was coming out of Kansas. And it was like, I was just praying that I would just be able to get on the flight. At that time, I lived in Boston, because I wanted to get home to my family. So I'm like, please get me out. And finally, like it was like one of the last flights to get out right before they closed the airports down for the storm. And so I get out, finally I get out on this plane, and almost immediately I'm regretting that decision, because the entire time the plane is just going, it's doing the whole thing. You know, when kids, when they play with like a plane and they're going like this, they're taking the plane, they're doing this. That's what it felt like in the air. And I just kept thinking, just a couple more hours, we're gonna get home and then I'll be right. And so we get to Boston and they're trying to make a landing. We come down the first time and the wing of the plane kind of does that. And so obviously we're not able to land like that. The plane goes back up in the air because they've got to quickly make the decision not to land. And so at that point, everybody on the plane is going, okay, this is not good. So the pilot comes on the speaker and says, sorry, folks, the wind is pretty strong. And so we're gonna get back to air traffic control and figure out what to do next. So we're all waiting, but they're turning and turning and turning and turning. The winds are knocking us around. So everybody's kind of quiet because we know this is pretty serious. The pilot tells us, okay, we've gotten clearance to come back down again. I know it's a little bit bumpy, folks, but we're gonna get you down. Don't worry, just have a seat. Everybody just hold on. So we come around. We're almost, and if you've ever flown into Boston, we fly over water. Oh boy. And we got not even close to the landing strip. And again, the wind just literally knocks one of the wings up and we can't do it. We go back in the air. And so now everybody on the plane is really concerned. This is a situation now. We circle around for about another 45 minutes. Everybody's literally like, your heart is like bump, right? That kind of thing. We circle around and finally the pilot comes back on and says, okay, folks, we don't have that much fuel left, so we have to land. And so I've instructed the flight attendants to give you some additional instruction about what to do because we may have to brace for some impact. So let me tell you something. When the pilot tells you that the flight attendants have to get up and re-instruct you about what to do, you know you're in trouble. And this time, everybody was listening like, wait, what do we have to do? Wait, when the thing comes down, like what? You know how you never listen, right? Everybody's pulling out the little manual in the back of the thing, like, okay, wait, what? What does it say? The flotation device, like what's happening? Because we're coming in over water. So flotation and then light's supposed to come in. And so the flight attendants say, okay, and also because we may have to brace for impact, right? We want you to get into position. So everybody, we want you to keep your seatbelts on, nice and tight. But also you have to lean forward and put your head between your legs. Right? The goal is that if you have to brace for impact, you want your body to be like kind of ball because it helps you brace. Now I want to say something about that. The men in the room may not understand what I'm about to say, but ladies, especially those who've had children, you will. Once you've had a couple kids, there's something called a fupa. Right around the middle section of your, And that doesn't really let you do the whole like head. It just, that's a situation right there. Yeah, that's kind of what happens. So I was nervous about the ability to get that whole situation done. But I think through the fear and the adrenaline of the moment, I was a ball. I balled all the way up. I was all in, right? And it was a really interesting thing because because I heard this like tapping. I couldn't figure out this noise, and I was thinking that maybe that one of the engines had given out, and I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out if the engine, because there was just this tapping, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And I'm looking all around, and then I realized my teeth are chattering. Have y'all ever been so afraid that your teeth are chattering and you don't know that? That's a situation, y'all. I'm just gonna tell you, that is a situation. And so I made myself stop, right? Because I was just nervous. And almost everybody on that plane was praying, some loudly, some very softly. Even some folks who really didn't believe or hadn't believed before in a higher power. I heard lots of conversations like this. Hey God, I'm Mark. Nice to meet you. You don't know me, but I was just thinking it's a great opportunity for us to get to know one another. And about that salvation stuff, like if there's any way, I don't know if there's a line that I gotta get into or how one signs up for that, but just in case there's something happening here, if I could get my name on the list, but just folks who were just in a moment of like trying to figure out, like coming to terms with what happens if you don't survive that moment. Folks are in that kind of venue. So to make a long story short, the plane actually comes around. It's rough, and when we come down, the plane is bouncing up and down. I think we sustained some damage to one of the wings, but otherwise we got there safely. We get off the plane. Everybody's shaking for literally for the next 2 hours. And so that was the moment that I made a decision that I was never going to get on. Literally, I was like, that is nuts. The fact that we even have planes and people, that is an experience. I'm not doing that ever again. That is nuts. I never wanted to feel that afraid in my life again. And I made that decision. About 6 months later, my older son, who was at that time, he was 9, my dude, he came and said, Mom, he was on a soccer team, and it was one of those travel soccer teams where you go around the region. For those moms and dads, you have kids, you've driven your kids all around God's green earth and watched them play in the game for 20 minutes. You've driven for 3 hours, but they play for 20 minutes. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay. So they had won, they won all these games and they were doing really well. Then there's another out of state away game that they had got invited to. And so my son said, Mom, we're gonna be going, we gotta get a plane ticket. And because we're going to the game. And I said, oh baby, I'm not getting on a plane. You're gonna have to go with your dad because I can't do that with you. And my son says, Mom, I can't go with Dad. Now let me give you a little context for that statement. My husband is originally from West Africa, where soccer is like a religion. Okay. He did most of his undergrad and graduate work in Europe, where soccer is more than a religion, where I don't know if you've ever been to a soccer game anywhere in Europe, or when you go to the stadium, what's happening in the stands is actually the Yeah. The entire time, like the whole stadium is like people are jumping and like there's a hum across the thing because people are oh. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Anybody ever watch the FIFA game? No, okay. So this is the environment that my husband was raised in. So when the kids are playing in soccer, you know, he has a very different way of showing appreciation or dissatisfaction with what's happening on the field. And oftentimes, as the loving wife, I have had to say, love, love, love. No. I'm gonna need you to just go to the parking lot, take a walk. Yes, honey, I know that yellow card was unfounded. And also, this is not the FIFA World Championship. They're 9. Okay. No. I know they're 9. Take a walk. I know. Just walk. Yep. I got it. So when my son says to me, "Mom, you can't be trying to send me with Dad. I can't, Mom. I need you." Mom, I need you. Now, you don't know this about me because you just met me, but I want to tell you that there is nothing more important to me in my entire life than being a good mom. Full stop, period. Nothing. So if my son says to me, "Mom, I need you," yeah. Okay, we're getting on a plane. So I make the reservations. I'm nervous as all get out. My whole body is still in sort of post-traumatic, whatever it is, and I'm trying to be sort of fearless for my son, but I am really a wreck. We get on the plane, and it was the most lovely ride. No problem. We get on the plane, we go, we get there, we get off, lovely. And I would say it took me probably anywhere from 2, almost 3 years to get back in the habit of being able to be on a plane and not have the level of anxiety up here about what that experience could be. Because every time I got on, I was just holding the seat like this, thinking that any minute, like we could go back into the same thing we had before. But over time, right, if you take a plane a few times, your body gets used to settling back to where it was. And so I was having this epiphany just a few weeks ago where this young kid in front of me was nervous and afraid, and I was literally in my own zone. Like I didn't even feel the turbulence. I mean, I didn't even feel it. And that was my moment of gratitude. I was feeling like, wow, this is 10 years ago, you were in such a different place. Like literally your fear had completely taken over you and stopped you potentially from doing the things that you love to do, to travel, to see places, to take your kids places, to do things. So I want to say a couple of things out of just a reflection. First of all, I want you as we think about our own lives, I want as I talk about this, I want you to think about a time for yourself, because I'm sure every single person in here has a reflection moment like this, where you have made a decision in fear that you had to walk back. Something in your life, could be big, small, doesn't matter, where you made a decision in a moment of fear and something happened that you had to walk that decision back. And I want to say a little bit about that, right? At just that reflection point. Number one, there's something about having gone through an experience of fear like that, come out of the other side, and had to go back into those situations and become stronger for it. What I was experiencing on that plane was the fact that I had overcome that fear. Now, I mean, literally, it's really hard to scare me, like on a plane, because I've been through the worst of it. Like these little bumps and like you get in the air, like listen, that plane could be going sideways, upside, like literally. I almost died on the plane. Once you've been through something like that, your stamina, your sense of yourself in that moment is changed and transformed. And you don't even realize it until you have a moment that's like, whoa, this is the thing that would scare me right to no end. And now it barely phases me. Everybody on this plane is nervous and afraid. And I am literally got jazz in my ear going, yep, completely oblivious. Wow. The second thing I want to say about that is I want to say about, for me, and this is really important, and probably for most of you, what helped you walk yourself out of that fear was likely not that somebody gave you a pamphlet or a booklet or a statistic sheet that said something like, well, you know, airplane travel is the safest possible mode of transportation. So that fear is really unfounded. Like, you're actually safer in a plane than you're, like, you could have given me that sheet and it wouldn't have made a bit of difference, because my body, right, the muscle memory of being in that circumstance made me so fearful. I don't care what the stats say about it. What brought me out of that, probably many things, was one, my aspiration to be a great mom, was love, right, for the person I was looking at, and for, I would say, I dare say, for the community that is my family around me. I want to say something about that with respect to the multi-service center here. What holds people, brings folks out of fear, what helps people think about the next version of who they are to become, is that the aspiration to be great people. That's why y'all are here. You don't come to something like this unless your aspiration is to figure out how you be courageous for the folks around you and in your community. The aspiration you have for that, the love of the folks that we're serving, yes, and the community around you. That's why you do it. You don't overcome something like that because you just, for most of us, because you decided today, I'm gonna conquer my fear. Most of us come out of it for some other reason. And I want to say a little bit more about that, especially this issue of fear, because we're in a moment that is really ripe with fear, and lots of folks who are doing quite a bit of fear mongering, I would say, for all kinds of reasons that we don't have to talk about today. Not our business today, we got other things to go. But I want to say I'm a social scientist, and here's what I know about fear. Fear is the dominating factor in all of human decision making. Did y'all know that? The aversion of fear, the aversion of loss, the aversion of something is literally the single dominating force in all of human decision making. And most of you don't even know that the majority of the time you're operating out of an aversion to fear of something else. I would say probably for most of us who went to college, one, because your parents might have told you you better go to college, but mostly because you didn't want what you thought was the negative that could happen, right? You got told lots of times that you wouldn't have any real opportunities if you didn't go to college. But for most of us at 18, you didn't know what you wanted to do. You didn't really want to spend your days in a college classroom. For those of you who went to college, you just didn't want to. You wanted to have more choices than being able to say, "Welcome to McDonald's, man, take your order." Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that career and nothing wrong with that choice. But you didn't want to have that be the only opportunity, and the fear of that push you to do a whole range of things. Most of us are operating in fear most of the time, and we don't even know it. It is the dominating factor in all of human decision making. And the more we get present to that, the more we're able. Second thing I want to say is when we're operating in fear, we don't make great choices. As social scientists, we've written lots of books about it. There's a book called Scarcity, if you've ever read it. It's a good one for those of us who do community building work. And it talks about what happens when people don't feel like there's enough, when there's a scarce resource, there's scarce money, there's scarce jobs, there's scarce opportunity, there's scarce whatever it is, there's scarce housing opportunities. People don't usually open up and say, oh my gosh, how can we create more opportunity for people across Seattle to have affordable housing and opportunities to do 1, 2, 3, and right? Most of the time when people are operating through, they do what? They try and hoard that. They try to figure out how to make sure they and their own kids get what they need. And then if there's something left over, they may say, okay, but they do this, right? But they also, in that scarcity book, they talk about the fact that people don't make good objective decisions, just generally speaking. And most importantly, when people are operating in that sense of scarcity or fear, we lose our imagination, right? We don't open up and say, wow, what is possible for a community organization like the Multi-Service Center? What are the things we can do next year? What are the amazing programs we can do? How can we serve people better? How can we figure some things out? They lose the kind of ability to do that kind of creative, open, imaginative, regenerative, inclusive work, which is why holding on to fear is so challenging, especially for those of us who do community building work. And lastly, I want to say just, in this country, we're in a tough situation. Americans now fear. We have a lot of things we're afraid of. And it's interesting, Gallup does this poll where they ask people what are the things that you most fear. 10 years ago, the thing that Americans feared most Public speaking. Spiders. They recently did that. They do it every year. And they ask folks again, you know what they said, most Americans? Civil War, afraid of their kids being shot, afraid they wouldn't be able to send their kids to college or afford their kids to have a great future, pay the rent, afraid they wouldn't be able to retire. Like all this list of like really serious things, like, whoa, what happened between public speaking and Civil War? Wait a minute, like in a span of 10 years, we've sort of like, right? And that fear is gripping a lot of people, right? On all sides of the aisle, on all sides of politics, on all sides of the conversation. And so for our conversation, I want to say to us today, as we think about the role of this work, I don't care who you are in this community, but a part of the role that you have to take on is helping to manage the fears of the people in this community so that you get them to open up to what we need, to open up to what it looks like to help folks, to be inclusive and compassionate when they're nervous and afraid. That's part of the work. And I got to tell you, I will guarantee you that there is probably no person in this audience, I don't care what organization you work for, there's probably no person in this audience whose job description has in it help to manage the fears of the people around me. Yeah, you don't get paid extra for that. There was no promotion opportunities like presented to you because you are now being able to do that. And yet, if we know that fear is the single dominating factor in all of decision making, and we know that people are nervous and afraid, policymakers, individual people, whatever, wherever you find folks, it is part of the job of ours to help manage that, to help manage the way that folks are feeling. And most of you probably didn't get a degree in that either, right? How do you manage folks' fears? How do you get them open? How do you get them compassionate? How do you help them like overcome that fear to move forward? That's one of the reasons I wanted to tell you that story about me making a decision in fear and having to walk that back. Y'all are gonna have to help a lot of people in this community walk that fear back. Sometimes, and I talk about it in my book, it's about talking people back into their power, right? Literally, in every conversation you have, before you start talking about what you got to get done or the new strategic plan or what's the new policy things we're going after, what's the program and services, stop and check in with yourself. How can I make sure that I'm talking people back into their power? Before we get to that, let me check in with you. Let me check in with you. Let me make sure you remember that you're more powerful than you think. That the courageousness that you have in your body can vibrate out if you allow it to do that. So I want to say to you today that a part of your job, not in your job description, but a part of your job is to talk people back into their power. And let me tell you, in this particular moment with what is happening outside these doors, right? Oh boy. Your success in your organizations, in your personal life, in your communities, is going to be dependent on your ability to talk people back into their power. Here's the good news. It's actually not that hard to do. It sounds harder than it is. I give a lot of direction in my book about how to do that, how you talk people back in their power, right? I think a lot of what's happening, a lot of what's happening in communities that's talking about how we remain joyful in the face of all kinds of things, the part of how you do it, right? But I want you to think in your own world, like how are you leaning into what it looks like to have folks experience their own power and their joy? Anybody ever saw the movie A Man Called Otto? Okay, I talk a little bit about that in my book because it's a great example in that movie. If you haven't, first of all, I love Tom Hanks. So I see anything he does a movie in, but there's a scene in there where he's talking a woman back into her power because she's trying to learn how to drive a car, and he's decided that he's going to show her how to drive a car. And it's a stick shift. She's pregnant, so she's trying to figure out how to drive. How many of you learn how to drive on a stick shift? You all know what I'm talking about? Okay, so you know the struggle is real. And she's trying, and she's got pregnant, she's got big belly, and she's trying, and cars behind her are honking, and she's not getting it. So she stops and she dissolves in a puddle of tears. And Tom Hanks turned to her and he said, "Wait, are you kidding me? Do you know all the amazing stuff you've done in your life?" And he starts going through all the things she's done in her life. And she's listening to that and through her tears, and she stops. She takes a tissue and she sort of wipes her face. She thinks about it. And you can just see her power rising inside of her. Her name is Marty Soul. And you can see the power rising inside her body. And she looks up, she takes the wheel, she grabs the stick shift, she puts that thing in the gear and eases off the clutch. And the car is just smooth. Now that's the Hollywood version of it. It probably did not go so well for you and I. But when I think about talking people back into their part, that's a part of what it is, right? It's about reminding each other over and over and over again of how far we've come. That moment when I was on a plane and I was taking a stop, I was like, wait a minute, 10 years ago, you wouldn't even get on a plane because you were so afraid. And now, girl, look at you now. Woo. Literally. So when we think about the work that we have to do for the next phase of who we are, I want you to be thinking about how can I remind my staff, my board, the folks I work with, the folks we help. Everywhere I go, I want to remind you, right, of the power you have. And I'm going to say that if you do that, if you lean into that, the energy of that, you are leaning into the spirit of courageous leadership. You are leaning into the best version of being a good troublemaker than I can think of. And if you do that, you are setting the course for a community that leads in courage and not in fear. Thank you very much. I just want to say one last thing. This is the fundraiser, so I am sure that many of you have come prepared to make sure that you're giving graciously, not out of fear, but out of courage. And also, I've made some of my books available. So for those of you who want a free copy of the book, I'll be signing them after the event, just to make sure that for those of you who want some additional inspiration about how you do some of the things I was talking about, you have the opportunity to get that. Thank you very much.
All right, that's a lot to come up with. One takeaway is tricky, but I think one that I heard that inspires me for what we're doing here is how your son was a pivotal partner. And it sounds like you weren't even looking for the help that he was able to give you yet because you were still in fear. And I think there's people we're serving, multi-service center, that maybe don't even know exactly what they're looking for yet. But we're supporting today is the staff that's on the ground, that's available, the programs that are opening doorways to become pivotal partners, where maybe 10 years from now, those people are soaring and not afraid to get on the plane anymore. So thank you for that so much. All right, guys, just for the record, public speaking is still scary, and she nailed it. So let's give it up for Dr. T. Good job. So obviously the center of what we do is serving our clients at the multi-service center, you guys. And so we think it's very important for us to also share the experience of our clients and even the volunteers that make what we're doing happen. As Kirsten shared earlier, our kind of focus today is on the food bank. Nationwide, we're seeing decreased funding, not only for the operational and staff costs, but also for food purchase, just to have the supplies available. And at the same time, we know right now, more and more people are needing access to food banks as benefits like SNAP are being reduced and the price of food is rising. So please watch and listen to Donald and Deb share their experience with the MSC Food Bank.
I have been to the place where I've been very, very hungry, where your stomach touches your backbone. And it's not like that anymore.
My name is Deb. I have been a volunteer at Multi-Service Center for 15 years. I started out doing community service hours on a traffic ticket. I continue to volunteer at MSC because I think MSC is an awesome organization.
I had volunteered at food banks before, but they weren't like this. This is more organized than any food bank that I've ever been to.
At the food bank, they come in, sign through appointments only, and they come through the door and they are signed in at the computer desk. Then they are allowed to shop throughout the building, going to each individual area. So we have a dairy department, fruit department, canned goods, bakery, and basically they're shopping on their own.
It's more like a grocery store than a food bank. It gives me a place to go and pick out things that I need and that I want sometimes. It's full service.
Without the food bank, people would really be struggling to eat, to feed their families, to feed their kids.
It's helpful, especially for people, elder people. You can't afford, after you're on a fixed income, to get the things that you used to get. When I first retired, the money was good. But over the years, the income didn't go up, but the price of food has gotten ridiculous these days.
It's truly an honor and a pleasure, and it's good to serve people, and I enjoy that. It's a life learning lesson to be grateful for the things that one does have.
I am thankful for the food bank, not only for myself, but it's a big help to a lot of people.
I'm grateful that this is where my journey has led me, so to speak. Supporting the food bank would feed people in our community and help others a lot.
All right, Donald and Deb are actually here today at table 5, and you guys, it takes courage to share yourself and your story like that. So let's give it up one more time for Donald and Deb. Thank you for being here and sharing. All right, friends. So Kirsten has shared a lot about what this organization is doing in the community. Donald and Deb have shared about their experience being part of what's happening. Dr. T has spoke courage into you. So now it's time. All right, friends. So you've heard, we're serving more people than ever before. I mean, it was almost a 40% increase because of the new things we're doing right now, the number of people served. And we know that there's just areas of funding that aren't coming like they used to. And so this is an opportunity to step up. We mentioned our pace setters who started at $250 or more with their donations before they got here. It gets even better because we have somebody who's matching $15,000 for people making a $250 or above donation. And we have not quite captured all of that yet. So if you are able to, maybe not everybody is, but if you're able to, we hope you'll make that donation, that $250 or above. If you're not, there's a suggested donation of $150 that we would love you to be able to do. But any amount that you can give today, folks, you have seen it is making an impact. You become a pivotal partner that is changing the trajectory of lives. And over the course of a lifetime, that's compounded so much that you absolutely change the world for people. So we're going to give you a few minutes now. Table captains, if you're there, if you can find the envelope on your table and make sure to get out those cards and pass them around. We've made it, the technology's there, folks. You can scan the QR code and donate right through your phone right now. If you don't want to mess with that, there's also cards there that you can fill out your information. You're going to set those back in the center of the table, and MSC staff will pick those up right after and process that for you. And we'll give you a few minutes here. Thank you so much for the impact you're going to make right now. All right, do not stop donating just because I had to start talking again, but we only have you for lunchtime, and there is one more very important thing that needs to happen before we are done today. So thank you for your support. Please continue, finish your donations, but also I get to present to you our 7th annual Help, Hope, and Change Award now that honors an individual or a business that has made a positive, significant impact in the community of South King County. Each year we get nominations from the community, and a committee on the MSC board makes the final selection. This year I am very happy to be presenting this award on behalf of MSC because it's going to someone I think almost everybody in this room knows and loves, and definitely a personal friend of mine, Cindy Dusage. Now, Cindy's commitment to the well-being of our South King County community exemplifies the spirit of MSC's Help, Hope, Change Award. She started volunteering with MSC, should I say a number? 15 years ago, helping with fundraising events. She's also been a strong advocate for MSC's service and the clients we serve, helping connect people who need to the MSC support and really connecting all kinds of people throughout our community. Now, her commitment to community doesn't end with MSC. She's also engaged with Fusion, the Federal Way Chamber of Commerce, Federal Way Public Schools, Rotary Club of Federal Way, and City of Federal Way initiatives such as the Arts Commission. If you're still not convinced yet, she is also working with Flare AI, and she's helping organizations and businesses build community awareness and support. She's not just a marketing professional. She is an absolute community connector and servant leader. Please join me in congratulating Cindy.
It's really hard to follow everybody who's spoken today, but I want you to know how very honored and humbled I am to receive this award. Many of you know that one of my favorite words is voluntold. So I want to thank Leanne Taylor for inviting me to my first MSC meeting, yes, 15-ish years ago. And, you know, in for one, and here we are, we're still happening. So that's fun. For many of you, I get up in front of a mic and we're at the Spring into Action, also known as, or previously known as the crab feed. And I just can't get up here without saying, even though I've been told that it's not necessary, don't be shellfish, you guys. Today, that might mean for most of us, this time and talents, and hopefully for the food bank. So the thing that's important to me, the fun of being involved with MSC is not only working in and for our community, but working with the fabulous people at MSC, and I'd like to give them another round. The joy is in the giving, though, and I hope that all of you can find an opportunity to find joy and fun in giving back to our community. I'm not supposed to do this part. Anyway, I'm just really, I'm so pleased and thankful for being acknowledged for this. Thank you very much.
All right, you stand over here and get that award. There's an award that goes with the award too.
Oh, that's exciting.
Hey. That's right. All right, let's give it one more time for Cindy, folks. I apologize. It was too much good stuff to fit in 60 minutes. We're getting you out 2 minutes late today, but we got to thank you again, our presenting sponsor, Blue Ridge. Thank you to our amazing keynote speaker, Dr. T, who will be over at the table there with her books for conversation and autographs until about 1:30. Make sure if you filled out a paper form, it made it back to the center of the table. We'll pick those up now. Table captains, the centerpiece is a gift from us to you. Thank you for getting everybody out today. And again, you guys, thank you for changing lives today at the 12th annual MSC Helps Luncheon. Have a great day, everybody.